are you going to wait for Tim?
And we're live. It is.
That answered the question.
Yeah, it answered your question. Wednesday, October 14th, 2020, 5 o'clock p.m. It's been a weird day in ways that Kate can talk about and in ways that she's not going to talk about. But they are actually related because the call she got from the reporter to talk about that we're not going to talk about came in the midst and was in the on the subject of the weirdness that we are going to talk about, which I don't want to spread disinformation, involves the New York Post, it involves Rudy Giuliani, and now it involves Twitter and content moderation and Facebook. So, Kate, as the world's expert on content moderation, what do we make of this, the events of the day? And for those who have not followed them, bring us up to speed while I'm bringing Tim onto the show.
Sure. So, the New York Post broke a story today, or a number of stories. They kind of broke them off into little pieces. And the stories basically were more or less kind of saying that they supposedly had evidence that showed Biden lies when he said that he didn't know anything about Hunter's work with, how do you say it? I actually don't know how to pronounce it. Burisma. Okay, good. I was going to say it the right way. Email from Burisma person thanks Hunter for setting up a meeting with Joe, and then like basically all of the stuff about U.S. foreign aid being withheld. And so these are obviously very bad for the Biden campaign in theory, or badish for the Biden campaign. And they are, the evidence for them is like unclear. Like, no, we're not like seeing the primary source evidence of it on the New York Post. Hi, Tim.
Hey, everybody! Thanks for letting me in.
Hello, Tim.
Thoughts about this. We picked a good day. We got a lot of stuff.
We did pick a good day.
Yeah, so let's have Kate talk us through the story, and then we'll let you rip on it.
Great.
Yeah. So the New York Post did this thing, and then I woke up to a friend, my contact at the White House, basically being like, this is absolute bullshit. This is why, like, this conservative bias, what's going on at Facebook? So basically, Facebook's really, in my opinion, not tremendously useful PR person on Twitter. Andy Stone had basically reacted to the New York Post story saying, like, we are currently fact-checking this, and in the interim, we're going to be downranking it. We're going to be making sure it doesn't get amplified in the news feeds. Like, this is the New York Post story. This is a little bit weird because the New York Post is not Breitbart. It's not like the National Enquirer. It's kind of Breitbart. I saw that look. That's the same look my mom made when I said that to her. And she was like, it kind of is Breitbart, Kate.
Else, but I'm gonna
but like, it's not the New York Times, but also like, it's just actually is kind of an actual journalism outfit that has been around for a while. And like, this was a weird thing that they're fact checking through the story that the New York Post is doing. In any event, all this is going on with Facebook, and Andy Stone, the Facebook PR person, is getting dragged by Josh Hawley in this immediate email or message that comes out demanding reform and all this other stuff. And then Twitter just bans the New York Post story from being distributed on from the site. And so the problem here being that, like, and the problem that I've been having with like a bunch of the Republicans that I've been talking to as this is coming out and they're coming at me is like, doesn't this prove anti-conservative bias? And I was like, no, it doesn't necessarily. What it proves is there was this huge outcry for these shitty fact-checking panels that were always going to run into this problem. And anyone with a bird's eye view on this knew that this was a slippery slope and made no sense. And that you were going to end up doing this. And that they're going to end up becoming some type of gatekeeper for journalism, which has taken 200 years to develop its professional ethics. And so, like, this entire notion is garbage. But to Twitter and Facebook's credit, they did what people were asking for, even though it was garbage. Like, it was a terrible, expert, kind of bad request. And now we're kind of hitting the skids on it.
Wait a minute. I wanna push back on that, because it seems to me there is no way Facebook bans this without a call from the FBI or from, the IC that says, basically, this is Rudy Giuliani peddling active Russian disinformation. This is part of an electoral interference campaign. I don't think a normal New York Post story gets that reaction from Twitter. Tim, what do you think?
The old line about never supposing malice when you can oppose incompetence. I would never suppose competence when you can suppose incompetence.
Competence on whose part?
Facebook's. Full disclosure, I used to consult for Facebook, but I haven't in a while.
Full disclosure, I've never taken any money from Facebook, ever.
Thank you.
Sorry.
And I just, this is not going to be a defense of them. So disclosure wasn't really necessary, but it's just all very ad hoc to me. Like, it is. This is it. You either have to, kind of create clear rules where you ban stuff that violate clear rules that do not, that take away the judgment out of most of it. Or you need to reorient your platform so that you have real editors and stuff, so that you have an actual editing system. This ad hoc editing is not going to work. And I don't know what happened behind the scenes that raised this, but that's what it is. It was not necessarily the FBI or IG. Who knows what it was that raised the flag on this? It is a total BS story, and I'm happy to talk about that. But if you look at Facebook right now, the Dan Bongino report and Ben Shapiro's Daily Wire, which are both propaganda sites for Donald Trump, are the most viewed news outlets on Facebook. So this idea that that by throttling this story they would have made any progress, when Dan Bongino can just take a clip from it and post it on his page, and then Breitbart can, and then Ben Shapiro can, and you're whacking moles everywhere. You can't do it. It's impossible to do it. Right. So now they've just shined this huge light on it. So I thought it was a disastrous choice. It did not solve the problems that they have, and it actually created an additional problem. Maybe the intent was good. So, there's that. So, I don't think that they're actually really evil, trying this, evil thing where they're trying to silence people. I just think that it's incompetence and trying to appease people, and it's backfire.
All right. Let's turn from there to the fact that we are not allowed to have fun anymore. We
forgot the intro.
We forgot the intro because, we went right into Facebook and Twitter, and then Tim popped up on the screen with the wallpaper, and your wallpaper today matches my actual background. Beautiful. Which is planned. If not on your part, then certainly on mine. Tim, welcome back.
Thank you.
Everybody's asking, everybody wants to know the answer to this question.
Okay.
How is your emotional state right now? Yesterday on the Bulwark podcast, Amanda Carpenter had I thought the line of the day. She said she'd been trying to not be optimistic, but the consistency of the polls has her feeling better than she has felt since the day Steve Bannon got arrested. And so she really did say that. I want to know, how are you feeling?
I do not feel as good as the day that Steve Bannon got arrested. That was like the high point of probably a 2-year period for me. I am repping my Orange Man Bad shirt, which you can get at rvat.org.
Hang on a second. We're going to put you up on the full screen so that people can see the...
Oh, yeah. Look at that. Orange Man Bad.
Yeah, there we go. It's an Orange Man Bad shirt.
And I do want to get back to the substance of the post story after I went off on Facebook.
Yeah.
But let's talk about my emotional state first. And it's teetering on the brink, if I'm being honest. I like Amanda starting to feel a little bit more confident about the result, but that leads me into a death spiral of, wow, maybe if I'm confident that I'm a jinx, or it reminds me of 2016 when my confidence was at an all-time high and I was humbled in an extremely painful and long-lasting manner. And so I still have a high anxiety. My emotional state is shaky. And it also, I don't know if you guys feel this way, but it also feels weird that it's so imminent. Like, it's been going on forever, and it's been encompassing my brain and my life so much. And then it's like, oh my God, it's going to be over in 3 weeks, and I'm going to actually be on my couch still. Like, the pandemic won't be over. I won't be able to go to, be with other people and experience it. So that has me. That's something I'm spending time with my shrink on. And as for the actual numbers themselves, I think that we're about, I would say basically, I'm not Nate Silver, so I'll make it easy for everybody. I think we're about a third likelihood. 1/3 is the normal likelihood, which is that Joe Biden wins like a Obama 2012 style electoral college victory, but a 2008 style popular vote victory because of the nature and how the demographics have changed. But win by about 5 or 6 points, but only win the states that he won the second time against Mitt, not like Indiana and crazy stuff. I think that there's an equal likelihood that the dam breaks for Biden. Our RVAT polls are not uplifting for Trump among undecided voters, and I think that the people that broke away from him what broke towards him last time could break away from him this time. Biden could end up winning by like 11 points and get 400 electoral votes. And I think there's an equal likelihood to that we see. I am seeing some concerning signs in the voter registration data that there's this surge of white working class turnout, that urban turnout is down for all the reasons because of the pandemic and young people and not being as familiar with mail and not being excited about Joe Biden, and that we end up with a coin flip, a third. Those that's sort of where I see it. I don't think Trump will win by any more than 1 point. That's not really a plausible path, I don't think.
Really?
I don't. I don't see how he would. And frankly, I think it'd be extremely unlikely for him to win by 1 point. And I think if he wins the election, he would almost certainly lose the popular vote again, probably by bigger numbers. And you have to think about this. Well, that's what I'm saying about the popular vote. So if you look at Obama 12, right? Yeah. Now Biden is going to run way ahead of that in urban centers, in blue states, because of Trump hatred, as crazy as this sounds, because of the move of suburban women over to Biden. So Biden is going to run up the score in California and New York, and even if he doesn't win Texas, he's going to lose it really close, and that's where a lot of the Republican popular vote number comes from. That's the biggest state, and so meanwhile, Trump has gained into his corner, these white working class voters that are disproportionately in places like Indiana that Obama won in 2008 that Biden has no chance in, and Wisconsin and Pennsylvania. So, I think his electoral college path is super narrow, and it's based on a big turnout among white working class voters, smaller turnout in urban centers, and probably some chicanery with, throwing out ballots.
Yeah.
That's his path. And that scares me. And then, by the way, I'm also scared about even if he loses, the 2 months after the election are going to be the longest 2 months of our lives. And I think that maybe the founders were a little misguided on their thinking on how long it should be before between the election and the inauguration.
They did shorten it.
They shortened it. It used to be like till March.
I think we should shorten it again in the internet, like 1 week.
Yeah, and I think there's a real case for shortening it.
I have some good news. It's a very small good news, but Sheldon Whitehouse is going to meet with Jack Balkin, hopefully, to talk about his Supreme Court plan. So that's great. Like, I kind of did an intro, and so they're like gonna be like, it'll be interesting to see, because I do think that there are good things happening in the Senate and the Congress, and like that we're going to be in a good position maybe for some real, actual, thoughtful reform. Who knows? I have no reason to be pessimistic about this yet, so besides the normal stuff. So just like let me have it for like a brief moment.
So Tim, what did you talk about the substance of the New York Post story?
Yeah,
obviously without repeating the substance of it for non-spread purposes.
Yeah, not without spreading the wrong thing. Yeah, I mean, the gist of it, I guess it's worth going back, and I'm sure people who watch this are pretty well familiar, but the very short case that Rudy and these clowns were pushing against Biden is that during the Obama years, Biden pushed to fire this prosecutor in Ukraine because his son was working for a corrupt oligarch. Now, there's a big problem with this conspiracy, and that is that Biden actually was pushing to fire the prosecutor because he wasn't investigating the corrupt oligarchs hard enough. And there's a ton of contemporaneous proof that that's the case from people like Ron Johnson, even, and a lot of international orgs, and basically all the experts. So the whole premise of this conspiracy is just nonsense, right? Like, it's just a completely nonsense deal, similarly to the nonsense unmasking conspiracy that I wrote about this morning for the Bulwark, plug. And this morning, so the only interesting thing about this morning's New York Post report is how it came to be. Because they basically have a hard drive that purports to be Hunter Biden's hard drive that includes an email that like isn't even that, like even were it to be true, wouldn't be that scandalous about how somebody from this company wanted to meet with Biden. And it had some Hunter Biden being Hunter Biden pictures and videos on there as well. But the interesting thing is that supposedly this came from a computer repair shop owner in Wilmington, and that Hunter Biden went into with an Apple computer, didn't go to the Mac store, didn't want to use the Genius Bar expert geniuses to help his Mac. He decided no, he's going to go to the local computer repair shop like it's 1988. Where there is a mostly blind man that runs a small business, a computer repair shop, give him his computer and then never come back. And then that mostly blind man would somehow contact Rudy Giuliani and say that, I don't know, maybe Rudy was having a couple beers at the local watering hole. And this is just one of the great coincidences of our time. With this hard drive. The person also, the computer repair shop man, is also a Trump's fan. You know, there's some other possibilities here, like such as the fact that we already know that Russia hacked Burisma's emails, and we already know that Rudy has deep connections with a lot of Russian info ops and disinformation folks. So, you know, a lot of that's maybe an alternate theory that Occam might favor. But what the New York Post has is that the blind Wilmington computer repair shop man has Hunter Biden's computer, and he has an email that's like very minorly scandalous, even if it's true, which it probably isn't.
And so, is your theory that Twitter banned this and Facebook depressed it based on no information?
Twitter's claim is that they ban all hacked info, and I'm sympathetic to that. Okay, now there are some issues with that. You know, and there's sometimes newsworthy and relevant hacked info. You know, that's why it's hard to make these kind of rules where there are no judgment calls. But I mean, I think that would have been a smart policy in 2016. Obviously, I don't think individuals, computers should be hacked, and we should be releasing emails from individual people. You wouldn't, release information if you broke into my house and stole my journal and put that on Twitter. I think that would be a fair thing to take down. So, if your question is, did the FBI contact the platforms and tell them that this is hacked Russian info and tell them to take it down? I guess that's possible, but that seems much less likely to me than there's a lot of internal pressure at these companies from the bottom up to not post far right misinformation. That's well-intentioned pressure, and that maybe this was a bad example of executing on that.
All right. Oh, Kate's
trying to talk, but she's muted.
Kate's like, I'm speaking.
Okay. No, but to that point exactly, Tim, like, this is actually a great point, Ben. Like, in theory, the FBI like would not be sympathetic to trying to urge, like, I mean, even though it's supposed to be neutral, but under a Republican president, like it seems like it does not parse to me that the government trying to actively to take down the New York Post story would be why. Like all of the pieces don't line up in that scenario, even though it does seem like it could be some deep state type of thing. That doesn't make any sense to me. I think Tim's right. I think it's internal stuff. It is okay. So there's like a bunch of different kind of elements to this. Like one is like, okay, the first issue is like, should Facebook and Twitter have like this independent fact checking of journalism, even if it's hacked info, and like. I don't know if didn't the New York Times just run a story of kind of hacked, like, who knows how they got them, tax returns that we all read that like were kind of gotten from like we don't know where, and those stayed up, right? Like I don't this is, and I'm not.
We're going to
saying
get in trouble on Resistance Twitter right now, Kate. This is not a popular take that we're.
I know. My take is I know. But I can't, sir. I speak my mind, Tim. But like, you can't have consistent policies in this because it is a insanely slippery slope, and because there are obviously various types of like things happening behind the scenes that kind of are more or less legitimate and are like situation sense. Like they are not things that you can like measure for in a rule that you write. Okay. And you're going to get into basically fact checking the New York Times or CNN or MSNBC or every single person that publishes anything. And that's just like not possible at scale, but it's not a thing that we want these platforms to be doing as a society. Okay, so how do we get if there is conservative bias, how do we get the platforms to solve for this? And this was my fight with someone all day who works in a big building that is not dark colored. It was basically that there was this, I was like, well, tell me how the First Amendment allows you to come near these platforms. He's like, oh no, we're going to do this thing where you can just like, we're going to threaten to break them up with antitrust, and then they'll do what we want. I'm like, oh, collateral censorship. That sounds so much better than actual censorship. Like, you're going to threaten them. And then, like, because their economic interests are at stake, they will do whatever you ask them to in terms of regulating speech. That is a terrible end. Like, these are all things that are happening, and no one is addressing these issues on their face or digging into why they're really hard or why they've been hard for millennia. Like, these are not easy questions.
No.
So, anyway. Yeah.
All right. I have an important question for you, Tim.
Great.
Why are people speaking in Russian on our feed?
I don't know.
Because, okay. It's Russian disinformatia. Have you decided what you're doing for election night yet?
Well, we are going to have a Bulwark Plus live stream for all the Bulwark members. Go on over there and sign up. Me and Sarah and Charlie Sykes and Amanda and JVL. But we're going to take shifts. So I'll also probably be drinking a little bit. And I'm hoping to maybe have one or two friends over here in a quasi-bubble if they're willing to come over to Oakland. Otherwise, I'll be just alone with my husband and child.
Alone on the couch.
Live streaming. I know it's kind of depressing.
Tim, where were you? Where were you for the 2016 election?
Ooh, yeah, I was in New York. I was doing a bunch of TV and live streams and such. I was doing the BuzzFeed live stream, and I had some CNN. And then after I felt Pennsylvania dropping, after the needle started to go like this, I had 2 cigarettes and took a sleeping pill and texted CNN and told them they need to find somebody else to fill my slot. If they wanted me to come, they need to put me on payroll. They got Anna Navarro. Or people who are there who are paying contributors who can eat crap on live TV. So I took a sleeping pill in my hotel in New York.
I did that too. I went home from a party and took a Xanax and fell asleep, and I was like turned off my phone. I was like, done.
Excellent.
Done.
All right, we have a visitor.
Okay, great.
Who is coming
what
in
are
to
you
join
doing on
us.
election night, Ben?
Yeah, where were you on election night?
No. What are you doing this time? What are you doing in 2 weeks, 3 weeks?
We haven't planned it yet.
have some people in the garden wearing masks and maybe project the election results on the side of the house and drink a lot, maybe smoke some meat. I don't know yet. That's why I was asking.
thought that sentence was going to end differently.
Yeah, me too.
If the sentence were going to end differently, I wouldn't say it on, in front of a live audience. Is our visitor here?
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm here.
You're here?
Yeah.
You're going to have to speak more loudly, Lisa Page Puppet.
Oh,
Okay.
hey!
Sorry, puppet. I mean, team. This is much harder
Hey,
than you
Lisa
think.
Page Puppet.
Hi, Tim.
How are you?
Oh, I'm on a Twitter ban because my emotional state cannot actually handle news anymore. So this is the first I'm hearing about Hunter Biden, as it turns out.
Well, so I assume you're getting your news from the Bulwark, though, in lieu of Twitter. I've been making a sad and happy election night playlist, competing playlist.
Yes!
And so Lisa, if you want to text me any thoughts, Lisa Page Puppet, I'll take thoughts.
Oh, that's rocking. Okay, I'll put some thought into this. Tim, if you all don't know, is a very skilled playlist maker.
Yeah.
It is one of your hidden talents that should be more widely known.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Hypothetically, if this were Lisa Page and it's not, it's just a puppet, she wanted to just flag general practice at the FBI post 2016 with respect to disinformation is that there is a close relationship between the FBI and certain providers who want information about TTPs, other signals that the FBI is getting with respect to whether information is part of a disinformation campaign or not. So it's not that is not a possibility. My personal view is that in light of how extraordinarily hot this type of information would be, that the FBI would do everything in its human power to avoid notifying a provider about this information.
So your assumption, Lisa.
Does that mean you agree with me, Lisa Page?
Yes.
So your theory is that the scenario I describe is possible under policy, but you doubt that it's what happened here.
Correct.
All right. I'm going to focus in a true Trump-like fashion on the first half of that sentence.
Sorry, I made you laugh. I didn't mean to.
While we have the puppet here, I am curious if the puppet has any thoughts. I wrote this morning about the end of the great unmasking controversy, supposedly, and maybe the real Lisa would show up from under the puppet. That would be so cool right now. If the real Lisa showed up from under the puppet. Unmasking, unpuppeting. And I wrote about how, Ted Cruz said that the president had spied on, or Joe Biden had spied on the president, and that John Cornyn said this was bigger than Watergate. And none of them have seemed to have weighed in on that story. So I don't know. I was just wondering if you had any thoughts on the unmasking, end of the unmasking.
Have you read the Washington Post?
Have you read the
story
Washington Post story?
I have not. I've had it sent to me, and I read the first 3 lines, and I was like, well, I don't even need to read this because I know this entire thing is bullshit from outset. So, why do I need to recognize that it's been concluded that this was bullshit because it's always been bullshit? But, unmasking is a central part of how the intelligence community works. There is literally nothing controversial about it. There's no way to be conspiratorial about it because the very essence of unmasking is, I don't know who this U.S. person being referred to in this intelligence product is. So therefore, I'd like to go to the intelligence community agency who produced it and say, hey, there's some interesting reporting about Vladimir Vladimirov talking to U.S. person 2. I'd like to know who U.S. person 2 is.
This has always been the best part of the unmasking scandal. That it was like, they were targeting the Trump family. And it's like, well, how did they know that they were targeting the Trump? It's fundamental to the whole point of the unmasking. It's like, it's like, oh, well, maybe had there not been so many irregular conversations with Vladimir Vladimirov, then, they wouldn't have that have been unmasked.
But even at the outset, even if there are regular conversations, you cannot seek that information until you ask it. You don't know what's there until you ask for the unmasking.
I always thought the most interesting part, it's been a while since I've looked at this list, but the most interesting part of the unmasking list to me was that on some day, it's like December 17th, 2016, from all over the U.S. government, people are asking, can we unmask this guy?
Right.
And it's like, what did General Flynn do? What was in that intelligence report that like people in the Treasury Department are like, who the fuck is that? And it's like 60 people within a few days unmask General Flynn. And I'm just like, what was in that intelligence report?
My favorite part of the unmasking scandal was, I don't know if everybody remembers this, if you watched it closely enough, was the period of like a week where conservative media had decided that since Susan Rice had written in an email that the president had said that they should do things by the book, that was suspicious.
Yes.
The Trumpists would never write in an email that we do something by the book. You would only say do it by the book if you are not doing it by the book.
Right.
That was their deep analysis.
It's by the book.
Gate. Yeah, by the book gate.
Yeah. All right. Lisa
I got nothing
Page
else.
Puppet.
Lisa.
All right.
Yo,
Thank you for coming, Lisa Page Puppet.
peace out.
Talk soon.
Oh, a different puppet showed up.
Who's that?
Um,
Is Sarah Longwell Puppet?
It's Lisa Page's unmasking.
No.
Oh, it's the unmasked Lisa Page. Wait, you got to put the other puppet on top of it.
I did. No one's paying attention to me because you muted me.
Yeah.
I see. Well, you made this like terrible background noise. I don't know what it is.
It's actually a paper bag crunching as I puppet it. And so that was what the noise was.
The unmasking scandal visualized here on In Lieu of Fun. Where else can you see that? So,
I'm a grown woman, and I have 2 puppets that I've made myself, and no children. And I'm sitting here with them, I just want to say.
And hundreds of people watching the puppets.
Mm-hmm.
I have one other subject I'd like to discuss. Unless you had something on your agenda, Ben.
No, I was just going to go to audience questions. So let's deal with your subject first.
Audience question. I was pretty interested by the fact that the President of the United States yesterday posited multiple times that Osama bin Laden is alive, actually, and that SEAL Team 6 killed his body double. As part of and then SEAL Team 6 was killed by Iran as part of a blood libel that Joe Biden put on them to cover up the murder of Osama bin Laden's body double. And I think Benghazi was in there somehow. I found that to be pretty big news that the president sort of revealed that yesterday on Twitter multiple times. And I think it's sort of interesting that nobody else seems to be talking about that except for me and Jake Tapper and Bill Crystal.
Yeah, I actually got to say I missed that. Where did he say it?
He did 2 tweets. He did 2 absolutely insane tweets that link to this article about Osama bin Laden and the body double and the payoff of the Iranians. So you didn't see that either.
Well, I will say that the Wittes body double was killed recently, and so I'm inclined to believe it because my own body double was killed by SEAL Team 6, and the Iranians covered up that by taking out the SEAL Team.
I'd look into that. I just think historically speaking, if the President of the United States implies that a past president had covered up a murder of a terrorist as part of a blood libel, and that that would have been news. That would have generally made the news.
Yeah, that's right. No argument.
I'm just trying to bring it up when I get invited places because
wait, let's talk about that for a minute because here's my question about that. let's posit that is the craziest thing ever said by a U.S. president. How far down the list? So let's imagine for a minute that that's first. Second would also be by Trump, right? Like like how far down the list do you have to go before any name appears on the list other than Trump?
It's like a whole fucking coffee table book. Like he literally just has like you could just he just owns the genre. Like now, like I just like
because like, I don't think there's a time when like Millard Fillmore, like Andrew Johnson said some.
Wait, didn't that guy die after like 3 days in office or something?
No, that
was the other guy. Oh yeah, that's Taylor.
But like I don't think there was a time that like Millard Fillmore went off on a rant about like James Polk killing like you can't even so like you'd have to get like 50 or 60
like so privately I think LBJ and Nixon said some pretty crazy things but
yeah,
publicly
but not publicly.
public facing I think Trump owns how many days has he been president? 1,200 days, give or take.
I don't want to think about it, but sure. Let's just name a number and pretend.
He probably owns the top like 1,500 spots.
Yeah, it would be like a great coffee table book. You'd have like the presidential seal on it, and it would be like the craziest fucking things ever said by the presidency, and all the pages
of them are just Trump
quotes from Donald Trump.
Yeah.
All right.
And then like the other 300,
he twice tweeted articles that made this argument with things like interesting or whatever, so anyway.
Okay, but fair. But I think that the craziest thing about the coffee table book is if we made it 1,500 pages and like the first 1,200 were like every day in office that he's had, and then you put the last 300 or whatever, it could just be like other presidents for the next like 100 years citing to Trump, and then you could just put them in the book. Like you could be like, at least I didn't say this. And then that would still be the craziest thing that a president's ever said. I have
bringing in some audience questions. Kate, pose yours while they rapture in.
Oh, I was going to say that I think that there is I'm curious to hear kind of. I was at dinner last night. My family came over, and one of the things that came up was the fact that like there's no way. Okay, barring like legal, like he gets put away in jail, whatever. But like, what is going to happen to him post presidency if he really loses and steps down? Like, what is he going to become? And like, how is he not? And so like, I tweeted something that got me a lot of flack last night, which was actually brought up by my father-in-law. He was like, a one-term president can run for office again. And I was like, oh my God, I hadn't even thought of that shit. I was like, that's some nightmare fuel. Thanks for the paranoia, Kevin.
I love bringing that up to people, and I'm sad that I didn't get to bring it up to you because the look on their face is just like.
Because that was and I was horrified. I'm like, oh, he's not going to stop. This is insane to think that he would stop. He is going to continue to feed this machine that he has built, even if it doesn't have the office of the presidency, which he, I think, honestly never really wanted, to be honest. I just remember the look on his face the couple of days after election day, and he just seemed so daunted by what he had, the dog that caught the car. And I don't know. Tim, what do you think? What do you think we're going to do with a President
I've got really
Trump?
Bad news on that front. I'm working on a Rolling Stone article on this very subject.
Great.
So you can read
I
my
love your
longer
writing.
thoughts there. Thank you. You can read my longer thoughts there. In short, he's not going down to Texas to paint. He will be in our lives.
Those are not very good, but it's very well intentioned to feel.
Yeah. He's going to be in our lives. He's going to tweet. He potentially will start his own media outlet. If not, he'll be on Fox regularly. I think that he will tease running again, even if he doesn't, because he'll like the attention. So yeah, unless he's indicted or dead, he's gonna be around, no doubt.
Christopher, the floor is yours.
Hi, Tim. Thanks for holding down the fort in Oakland, where I'm also from.
Hey, man.
It's good to know that Oakland is the center of the resistance.
Yeah, I'm over here in West Oakland. Good. That's cool.
Yeah. So maybe you're tired of answering this kind of question, but among the ranks of those who oppose Trump from the right, some of you guys are still calling yourself Republicans, and others former Republicans. So I'm just wondering, after Trump, do you see the former Republicans trying to build a third party or become more centrist Democrats, while the non-Trump Republicans try to rebuild the GOP?
Yeah, I think the band is going to break up. And it's funny, you can tell that that people think Biden's going to win because you can already see the band starting to break up on Twitter. Like Jonah Goldberg and Steve Schmidt were in a pissing match this weekend, and you're starting to see this. I think that there'll be a percentage of let's call them. I don't know if anybody reads the Dispatch, but like in commentary, I think the Dispatch and the commentary crowd will lean back into the party and try to fight the fight. I think some of people at the Bulwark will. I think that's where Longwell's head is. I don't want to speak for her, but that's my sense. I think that others will feel like they're sick of it, and they are basically Democrats now, particularly as long as Biden is around. And I think that there'll be a center, and I think this will be where more regular voters land, honestly, like not us pundit green room types. But I think that there'll be a sort of center-left coalition with Biden wins around Biden for a while until the left, unthrones him. So that's not a real word, but you know what I mean. Dethrones him. Thank you. And I think there will be some people like me who are just going to kind of wander the world like Kane and sort of, I don't know, have thoughts and write them. And I don't really see a fit. I don't see the party coming back anytime soon to something that I will like. And so I think that that's a worthy fight to have. I just don't think that I'll be part of it.
Daniel, he's back in his natural habitat, which is the big chair, but the shirt is still a little blue, so you're not like invisible in the chair. What's going on?
So for 2024, if Biden wins, which GOP candidates for president scare you the most, and do any have the potential to build up a following like Trump has?
Yeah, I really worry about a competent Trump. I do. I think Tucker obviously worries me the most. Tucker, is not a real populist, but he can fake it much better than Trump. I think it's just astounding to me that they haven't passed a stimulus. This is my hobby horse for the moment, that like Trump hasn't just done a $3 trillion Trump stimulus and put big Trump stamp on it and given everybody Santa Trump bucks. Like, he's just a bad populist. And I think Tucker, he has the highest rated show in all of TV, all of news right now. I think he does this fake populist thing well, better than Trump, actually. And he worries me a lot. Hawley worries me a lot, but I don't know. Cotton would worry me, but I think that he has like the negative charisma. He has like the charisma of an animated slug. So I don't really see him becoming the president of the United States. So Tucker and Hawley are the ones that worry me the most. And I forgot just the other guy's question on independent. I've been very negative on a third party forming, and I maintain that negativity as long as Biden is in charge. But of the Democratic Party. But I think the plates of these parties are shifting. And I think that there could be a bottom-up third-party movement within maybe two presidential cycles into the next decade. But
Can
maybe
I ask
not.
you,
A lot of things can change in that time.
when you say negative, do you mean like that it shouldn't form, or that you wouldn't be a part of it?
Oh, that it wouldn't.
Okay.
That's not a should judgment. I think it'd be great if we had 5 parties, to be honest. It would be, I certainly would be much more likely to find one that fit me. But I just don't see it. I think that the only way that I can see it is if somebody from the kind of DSA wing of the left wins a Democratic presidential primary, and then you have a Republican nominee that is that is sort of Trumpy, and then you have a very charismatic human. Like I don't think it's not going to be based on policies or issues. It'll be based on a charismatic human that fills a void. And I don't think that I thought that was impossible during the Trump years because he's so polarizing. I didn't think it was likely during the Obama years, and now I think that I don't think it'd be likely during the Biden years, but it could be likely after Biden.
Yeah, I think there's a really interesting study to be done on charisma and the Republican Party. I think it's a really why the Republican electorate is so much more responsive to charisma than the Democratic electorate. Miguel, the floor is yours.
Hello. First of all, one question. Should I ask the question of Drew Rickett or mine?
However you prefer.
Okay, then I'll just ask mine. So you've mentioned multiple times, the last time today, with David Fries in the Lawful podcast, that, excuse the accent, that you think that the automatisms provided by the US Constitution will mostly get Trump over the stage if he loses the election. To you and all your other guests and the guests, to which extent do you still think this applies?
Yeah, so I do believe that there's a certain degree of automaticity in the process that people who are terrified that Trump will refuse to accept a loss in the election just aren't factoring in. So the most important of these is that the process of counting the votes is not a federal authority. And in all of these battleground states, there are state laws that govern the counting of votes. Now, is this a perfect protection? Certainly not. But is it a pretty good protection? Yes. Once the votes are counted, they are certified not by a federal official, but by a state official. And the state officials who certify these votes then trigger the appointment of electors. And those electors will vote for the people they want, they are pledged to vote for in overwhelming near 100% numbers. Once that person has the vote of the Electoral College, he is entitled to take the oath of office on January 20th. And all of that happens without a whole lot of federal involvement. I mean, Congress receives the electoral votes. And so are there ways for that system to fail? Yes. Is the system relatively automatic? Yes, it is relatively automatic. And does the system depend on Donald Trump's saying the magic words, "I accept the results of the election"? Actually, no, it doesn't. So I do believe in the automaticity of the system to some degree. I don't want to overstate that, but I do think it's an important set of protections. Tim, am I being wildly over-optimistic?
No, I agree with that. I think that I think that the panic about this is maybe irrational is the wrong word, but I think it's maybe based on a rational fear based on Trump's craziness over the past 4 years, but overstated. Possible, but overstated. And if it happened, It'd be really, really, really bad. So I do important caveat.
See shirt. Dan Botts, the floor is yours with cat.
This is a new tuxedo cat. It's not the old. Yeah. It's not the other cat. Who's this?
This is Luke.
Hi, Luke.
This is Luke. All right, Luke is now Luke wants to get up. Luke says hi. So when I got up this morning, I was kind of like, Wednesday. What do I have to look forward to? But then I remembered I have two things to look forward to today. Number one,
you have so much to look forward to.
Tim Miller, and number two, Rational Security tonight. That's awesome. So
it is a good episode of Rational Security too.
I can't wait.
Excellent. So Tim, I'm interested. You mentioned this just in passing about Trump being like a bad populist. what in the world? Why would he not want to write checks for $4 trillion to put money into people's hands immediately in front of an election?
Don't give him any ideas. He's watching this,
It
man.
is the stupidest.
We actually.
I have to tell you this. It is the stupidest political move in memory. Like there have been a lot of bad political moves, and it's not by Trump, by the way. It's by the Republican senators who, for some reason, are sacrificing Joni Ernst and Tom Tillis at the altar of austerity 1 month before the election, after spending 4 years just completely torching their reputation on the matter of spending. It makes like you go along with every Donald Trump spending bill for 4 years, and then in the last month during a pandemic, when there are very real needs among families and businesses, you turn off the spigot. It's just mind-boggling. So look, I don't think that most voters follow like the intricacies of what's happening on the Hill that closely. So I don't know if they'll be punished in that sense, but they will be. That they've foregone the opportunity to get a big benefit by having Trump giving the stiff arm to Larry Kudlow and Mitch McConnell and all the, market fundamentalists that he beat in the 2016 primary. I mean, his whole rationale for winning was that he told all of the, old line Republican, austerity types to pound sand during the 2016 primary. So why is he doing it now? I can't answer it. It is absolutely moronic as a political matter, putting aside, the merits of it.
Alice, she's back, and the floor is hers.
Okay. First of all, I love the crowdcast system because I can ask really trivial questions like this and then get clearance from you, Ben. So I know it's not that trivial. But I do have an actually relevant question now.
Great.
What demographics do you think a potential third party would pull from if it's kind of not the populist left or right? And then the trivial question is, have you read Red, White, and Royal Blue, the gay romance novel about the 2020 election?
I do. I only read fiction, so I'm not as historically knowledgeable as some of my friends. It's a mistake probably to be a political writer or not, but I love fiction. I've not read Red, White, and Royal Blue. I've considered it, but in my gay fiction, I'm mostly looking for a little bit of escapism from the political fray. So that's why Red, White, and Royal Blue didn't make it to the top of my list. But we'll see in 2021. And what was the other question? What demographics for the third party? What do you mean? What fiction do I read? I don't understand the question.
What's your favorite stuff? Like author, or do you have an author, or what is
who's my favorite author? Like my favorite classic author, I guess. Man, I don't know that I want to answer that. I guess Fitzgerald was my favorite classic. Washington Black was probably my favorite fiction book I read this year. I don't want to butcher her name, but the one who wrote Americana, I've read all of her books over the past year. They're all excellent. I really loved A Little Life. It made me want to kind of cut myself, and I like books that make me want to cut myself.
Because that's a relief from your normal life.
Yeah, a little bit of a break. I recently read the Garth Greenwell, which was just okay. I forget what else I've read recently. I haven't been reading enough. I'm looking for a book list, so I'll take Rex. I'm going to go all books as soon as in 3 weeks. The question was third party demos. I think that's a good question. I presume it'd be internet driven. So I do not. I think it would be probably, Gen X and down was what would drive a third party. But I'm pretty pessimistic about the nature of a third party anyway. But I think that there's potential for a sort of kind of populist divide within the two parties, where you kind of have a younger DSA. Sort of demo on one side, and kind of a populist working class white demo on another side, and sort of kind of basically the Joe Biden coalition, really, like suburban whites and kind of older black voters. potentially. I think there are a bunch of ways it could break down, though. It's not it certainly wouldn't necessarily be that. It wouldn't have been that 4 years ago, so it's kind of hard to predict what it would be 8 years from now.
Ben Shoka.
I love Line of Beauty, Alan Hollinghurst. I read that many years ago. Thank you, Petra. It was excellent. It's a good idea.
Berin Shoka, the floor is yours.
Give me a book, Rick.
Thanks, Ben. Well, for books, if you haven't read Philippe Besson, the French writer, I recommend all of his books, and in particular, his novel "Lie with Me" was just translated by Molly Ringwald.
Oh, actually, I did read that. I'm bad at remembering authors' names. This is why I'm like sweating.
Oh, I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
No, that's okay. I did read that, the Molly Ringwald, the translation. It was really lovely. I read that earlier this summer. That was great.
Well, that's a part of a trilogy. When the rest of them are translated, I highly recommend them.
Oh, okay.
So I'm not sure what I did to get invited to join you here.
You posed a question.
Okay, so I have a fun question and a serious question.
Great.
Do them both.
My fun question is, Kate, how did you become such an amazing ventriloquist, and what advice would you give to young lawyers about the importance of ventriloquism for their careers?
I mean, it was literally minutes of very hard work, and really, I kind of my favorite is when I'm drinking beer and can prove to you how good my ventriloquism is because I'm doing them both at the same time. But yeah, and to young lawyers, I would say you should all have paper bags as your clients. That's all I've got.
So my serious question is about Section 230. It's trending on Twitter right now. Justice Thomas issued an opinion yesterday for a reason in a case that did not involve any of the issues that he opined about and that have never been briefed. So he was just winging it. And his 10-page opinion appearance in John Hawley's questions today for Amy Coney Barrett. Republicans have spent all year arguing that Section 230 should protect censorship. Trump's been tweeting about changing the law. This has clearly become a major Republican talking point. And I don't think it's an accident it's happening right before the election, because, of course, the whole point of all of this is refs to get Facebook and Twitter not to moderate content like this New York Post story. I'd love to hear what all of you think about this and whether this is going to continue to metastasize as an issue even after the election.
So I'll just kind of go quickly, which is just kind of that this is what I call the horseshoe issue of 230, which is not this is not unique to 230, but I think you just see it on display here a lot, which is the far right and the far left kind of come around in this find themselves voting for wanting the same type of reform and all of a sudden find strange bedfellows. So when one of my good friends, although I disagree with her on a lot of things, but she's very pro 230 reform, and she's a hyper liberal, super progressive, gets really excited by a Clarence Thomas opinion on or a Clarence Thomas statement about Section 230 and writ. There's a very, I don't know, there's you're just seeing some interesting bedfellows. I don't know. I think that no one really knows, and all of it is just bad for 230. And I'm resigned to the fact that I think that the First Amendment does a lot more work for us, maybe ultimately, than 230. And if we get rid of Section 230, it'll just going to be bad for the little guys in a lot of ways. But not really have an impact on some of the big players. But we're bringing in Mike Godwin. He could I mean, I'm not pro getting rid of.
No, Mike Godwin had a different question. It was a non-230 related question, and he gets the last question.
Okay, so my question is, what do we think about Melania's friend Stephanie something Wolkoff being sued by the DOJ for violation of this non-disclosure agreement? I mean, I wish I had the DOJ to enforce my agreements. That would be handy. So I'm a little startled by this development, and I wonder if you have some thoughts about that.
Ben, I'd love to hear your thoughts. It seems crazy to me. What the hell do I know, though?
I think, look, the Justice Department has typically ever sued government employees over exactly one NDA, and that's the people who have obligations to protect classified information. It's a very special kind of NDA, who then try to publish books and don't submit to pre-pub review, a la John Bolton. That is a form of NDA that the Justice Department has a history of trying to enforce. They also sometimes have been known to use the criminal law to enforce it. Short of that, the Justice Department just isn't in the business of enforcing. First of all, government shouldn't be asking for NDAs on non-classified material in the fucking first place. And the tradition of writing unflattering memoirs about your time in government service.
That's a time-honored tradition.
That is a time-honored tradition. And, and so query what the history of this kind of contract enforcement by the Justice Department looks like, if there is any. But at a minimum, it's highly irregular, and I would say it will be dismissed quickly by any attorney general that Joe Biden might appoint.
Well, I think that's right, but I mean, the odd thing is, I mean, culturally, even after Barr goes, you're going to have, the fact is the DOJ took on this case. There'll be lawyers who will stay in the DOJ who were somehow part of this. If there was any doubt that the Department of Justice had been turned into enforcers for the Trump administration, that certainly kicked whatever legs were left out from under, that argument.
I agreed. And look, once you file a case like this, they can be a little hard to dismiss because in theory, she may have actually signed an NDA. I don't know whether the federal government was party to it or whether it was just kind of a Trump thing. But, you want to, once you're in litigation, those things have a logic of their own, but it should not happen. And it's one thing if there's classified information involved, but the First Lady doesn't have... staff to the First Lady, friends of the First Lady do not have access to classified material. It's, beyond that, it's really a matter of personal discretion.
Thanks.
Go ahead, Tim.
No, I was going to say it seems insane. I have two things I want to say, though, just for the good of the order here. I
also do think you should look at today's poll where we asked the audience for career advice for you post if
really?
Biden wins. Yeah.
I haven't seen that.
Ahead is that you should the winning.
That sounds good. Ooh, no. A years-long invented against his enemies that Quentin Tarantino would want to make movies about. Ooh, that seems good.
I mean, I'm thinking about you with a samurai sword and Tucker Carlson.
I was thinking about more like, rather than writing the fiction I'm going to read, do D-list Hunter Thompson on the campaign trail in 72 style things, and be the person that all of my old colleagues in the 2023 primary hate when I like show up to their event, they know that I'm going to just write just a brutal takedown mocking their candidate, and that seems to be an option. So, but I appreciate that. That's sort of related to the years-long vendetta, I guess. So it kind of combines option 1 and 3 a little bit, which are the winners.
I think you should like definitely Republican operatives of your generation and older should know that you are going to like dog them for the rest of their lives. Oh man, like that should just be like wherever they go, you will write a nasty piece about them.
I will be there.
Like you will be on Bulwark TV.
I was feeling a little bit. I was feeling a little uncertain about my life, but this sounds great. So thank you guys for this vote, and it's continuing to get votes. That sounds like exactly like the right thing to do. If any of you are under the age of 19, I have a show on Snapchat called Not My Party, which you should watch. If you're over 60, tell your teen to watch it. It's very good. News of the week. And my other thing is on the topic of books, which Kate said on Twitter last year when I was sad one day, I said, I want to take a break from Twitter. Send me your favorite books. People sent me the weirdest books. I got The one that I got was called My Tender Matador, about a drag queen love story in Pinochet's Chile. I never would have read that in my life if it didn't just show up on my doorstep one day. So if anybody wants to send me weird books, coming of age novels, homosexuals, straight people is fine too. Vendettas.
We're less interested.
Give me some inspiration, vendetta fiction. I'll take them and I'll send you a gift back. So that's it.
Sweet.
So great. Tim Miller, you're a great American. Wait, let's one more look at the shirt. Hang on.
Orange Man Bad.
Orange
Republican
Man Bad,
voters
man.
against Trump. rvat.org. You can get one. Fire sale. They all must go before November 3rd ish.
I promise you, people are still gonna want them after November 3rd.
Yeah.
Promise you.
Kate, who's our guest for tomorrow?
Our guests for tomorrow are Kate Shaw and Dahlia Lithwick, who are coming on to talk about the Amy Coney Barrett hearings and give us their take. I'm not allowed to call her ACB because then I get attacked on Twitter. So even though her name is very long and it would be easier, but whatever. Anyway.
That will be 22 hours and 54 minutes from now. And until then, we don't have fun anymore. But in lieu of fun, we have Orange Man Bad shirts. We have Lisa Page puppets. And, as facsimiles of fun go, those are not the worst things in the world. We'll see you tomorrow.
Amen.